Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we are going to take a look at the OK-229. In case you haven't already recognized what this is, this would be their version of a Shaman replica. Got a few additional twists on this one than they do to the original one. Did y'all know the Shaman was first introduced all the way back in 1997? That's pretty crazy. I didn't realize the Shaman had that much life on it there. Of course, it has evolved quite a bit, little bit here and there, although not that much. It was originally designed as an upgraded, larger size to their native series. So there you go. There's your educational component of today's video. I originally bought my first one of these OK-229s a month ago. From obviously 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗶𝗰, using my store credits there. Thanks to y'all who have used my links to buy your own knives there. I certainly do appreciate that. Y'all know I've been 100% transparent, showing you all my affiliate credits and sales and money and all that stuff. If you hadn't seen that, go watch. I got a video I did just a week or two ago called How Not to Make Money Doing Knife Reviews. Let me bring up this little chart I made to show you guys. So this is kind of how the relationship works. You know, I go out and I spend my money to buy a knife, right? Then I do a knife review and I put that up for you guys so you can see, you know, whether you think you might want to get this knife or not. If you guys buy that knife using my links, doesn't cost you anything more, but I'll get anywhere from maybe $3 to $4 on the typical knife, and you get enough of those, then I build up some credits in the store. I take that, I can either pull that money out and put it in my pocket, or I can buy some more knives with it. Guess what your buddy does with that? Duh, I'm buying some more knives with it. So this is our little circle of life here on the channel, and I appreciate very much y'all's support in allowing me to be able to continue to buy knives and do these videos for y'all. So thanks very much for that. Anyhow, got the first one of these a month ago. It had some pretty bad detent lash to it. And so I gave it away in the contest, but I gave it away before I even realized that there is a potential fix to this. So hopefully Jeff is watching this video. Jeff, man, I hope you are enjoying your OK-229. He's the one who won in our contest. I'm going to show you how to fix it up a little bit so it wasn't bad. In that one, I was able to rattle it, and it literally rattled the detent. Well, I'll talk about that in just a minute. There's a way to take care of that, and I've done that on this knife, obviously, right here. But it's also worth pointing out while I'm on it is that in every experience I've had, OK Knives has always taken care of me if I've ever gotten a bum knife from them that had issues. I don't know if y'all remember. I know my channel longtime subscribers will remember the 𝗫𝗍𝗃 knives. OK sent me 3 different 𝗫𝗍𝗃 knives before I finally realized, oh, this is just inherent in the design. The issues that I was having with that knife hitting the backspacer was due to a design flaw, whoever designed that variation of the replica. And so, but the point being, OK was willing to continue sending me replacement knives until I was happy. And they've done that. They did that again on the OK knife. And I think there was one other knife I had that same situation with as well. They have always made good on it, y'all. So, you know, it is what it is. It's worth mentioning. That's the reason why I feel confident recommending, you know, knives from them if you're going to go that route. However, what I'm finding, as I mentioned, is with this one, as with the first one, I think there's a design issue. I don't know if they just overcut the detent ball holes on all of these. So this is supposed to be a 200 run issue, right? Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit better. This one is, what is this one, number 46? So the first one I had was number 190. So I've gotten kind of both ends of this run. And they both kind of had the same thing. We'll take a look at that. I'll show you in just a second how I overcame that. Before we get into all that stuff, if you would, please hit that thumbs up button before you forget about it. That certainly helps me out a lot on the old YouTube channel. If you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe notification bell. We would love to have you join our little band of renegades here in the deep, dark corners of the interwebs. The box. The first one came in an actual OKK box, one of their little hard black cardboard boxes. When they sent me the replacement, this is what it came in. This is the first time I have ever seen a pouch from OK Knives. I'm wondering if any of y'all have seen these. I don't know if this is new or old or what the deal is. It did still come shrink wrapped in this plastic here. And that's all that came in it. It didn't even come in a box, so they just mailed it in one of those, you know, little flexi packages mailers, because they were sending me another knife or two at the same time. So they just stuck this in the package with some other knives that they were sending me. So interesting that no box, but it comes in a little, you know, I'm not going to say this is the highest quality pouch I've ever seen. There are certainly lots of issues you could take with it. I don't really care how many of us keep or even think about using those boxes or pouches after they're gone. So interesting on that. All right, let's talk about size comps. This, obviously, if you've never seen a Shaman before, the Shaman is what you're going to call a full-size knife. So I've got the OK-81, which is the PM2, and a pair of 3 down on the bottom. You can see this is very similar size, nearly identical in overall size to the PM2, and in many ways, I actually prefer it to the PM2. All right, what else could we show off here? I could show you another Shaman. How about that? Here's the size comparison to a Spyderco Shaman. Look at that. They're almost identical size. And, of course, the 𝗕𝗏𝗃 Raccoon. Fantastic little knife with that top liner lock there. We're going to keep that Shaman handy. We're going to talk about him in just a minute. How about something a little bit on the smaller side? The Civivi Vision FG, you can see, is a little smaller than the Shaman. And then the Pyrite Light is obviously quite a bit smaller as well. So this is more on the medium full size. I'm going to call this, for me, this is what I call a full-size knife. I don't have many knives that are even much bigger than that. Let's see, even here, like I've got the old XM18, which is dirty. Need to clean that up. But, you know, I use my knives, so there you go for that. I'm going to say these are almost the exact same length. It's the perspective of this camera makes them look... let me see if I can line them up all on camera. I'll stick those nubs right there into the rubber, and you can barely see these handles. Yeah, these are pretty much the same size knives. So this is, again, nice full-size knife, right? All right, let's talk about the specs. We'll run through those real quick. Interesting changes on this. So the real Shaman comes in at 8 inches long. This comes in at 8¼ inches. I remeasured it several times. The real blade, the blade in the real Shaman is really 3.6. This is 3.6 with a 3.2-inch cutting edge. So I got a little extra cutting edge on mine. Closed position. Their handle is shorter, 4.42. I don't know how that works out. Mine's 4.7. That's a good bit longer. Both this and the original are 150 thousandths on the blade stock. The handle thickness is pretty much dead on, just a little over ½ inch, 0.53. The real one probably comes in a lot of different blade styles. Typically it's stonewash. This is obviously a satin finish on the blade. Full flat grind or nearly full flat grind, but not hollow grind or anything like that. The real Shaman usually comes in a G10 variant, and these are carbon fiber scales. We'll talk about those in a minute. Again, the real Shaman you can get in lots of different blade steels. S30V is the most common. This is an M390 steel. Where does it say M390? I can never find that when I want it. It's there somewhere. Oh, you got to close it partially to see that up there, that M390. And I actually believe this really is M390. We'll talk about that too. HRC, you know, on S30V could be 58 to 60 HRC. I'm not sure where that came from, if I left that from something else, but there you go. The M390 on these is supposed to be 61, 62. I have not found that to be the case. So in case you don't know or haven't seen my other videos, the OK-81 and the OK-229, which is the Para 3 version, these also use the same M390, ironically also in 150,000. So I'm wondering if they just got all the same batch of M390 steel. I've sharpened and tested both the OK-81 and the 229, both sharpened, and both have gone through testing. And I've seen lots of online people who have XRF tested the steel on these OK-81s and said, yeah, this is definitely an M390. What we don't know is how hard the steel is. Nobody had that hardness tester in order to test the real hardness on them. So I don't know. They like to put the pictures up that shows 61 on their HRC on the listings, but I don't see that being the case. At least in my experience, this feels a little softer. I'm going to say 58 to 60 at best on the hardness. You know, it's variable. It can happen up or down. We'll talk about that again. The weight on mine is, because it's carbon fiber, a little lighter than obviously the G2 variant, so 4.73 ounces. Not too bad, certainly capable of being carried. This is the standard Spyderco compression lock. Also worth noting, in case you're wondering, whereas on the OK-81 and the OK-229, we had to cut away our own access to those compression locks. They do have a little pattern for it on the inside that shows you where to cut. The 229s come pre-cut. So you do not have to do any work on the scales of these. Why they did that on this and not on these, I don't know. But I'm glad they did. That certainly makes our lives a lot easier. Price-wise, typical Shaman is about $270. They can go up or down. And these are anywhere from $58 to $79. So they come in different steels. They have an S30V version for $58. Then they have a S35VN for, I think it's $64. And now this one, the M390, they've raised it all the way up to $79. I don't think I paid anywhere near $79 when I first bought mine. I have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure I got this $60, give or take. But they're always running sales. If you're into these kind of knives, you have to check the OK site regularly. They put stuff on pretty good, realistic sales all the time. I mean, like at least once or twice a week, something changes on that website. Whether they're adding new knives, which they've done a lot of lately, or they're putting things on and off of sale on a regular basis. If this is something you're into, you really just owe it yourself to check that site pretty regularly. You can find some really good deals on things just, randomly. Behind the edge on this, 22 thousandths. Obviously, this is a bit of a thicker steel on here, so it's to be expected. Still pretty sharp, though. No big deals there. All right, let's take a little bit of a closer look at this thing. I didn't realize that Spyderco actually did do like a sprint run of carbon fiber Shamans about 5 years ago. They did. And so this is not, I thought this was just a one-off, like, for some reason, OK Knives decided they'd do theirs differently. Spyderco actually did a carbon fiber version of theirs. But anyhow, I had such a great experience. The reason I definitely wanted to try this, I had such a great experience with the OK-81. This thing is just, the action on this is phenomenal. The sharpening experience was great. The cut test did really well. I love the carbon fiber, the contoured scales. Such a great experience with that. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to have the carbon fiber Shaman. I think I actually prefer this handle type. It's a little more neutral, a little more rounded, a little more ergonomic. Doesn't have any of a blade hump where the PM2 does. So I knew I was going to get one of these sooner or later, right? I had a good experience with the others, and I said, okay, I got to pick this up. This isn't my now hard work knife. OK Knives does really good carbon fiber. This is not like the peel ply like a lot of Spyderco knives do, where it's G10 with like a sticker layer of carbon fiber on the top. These are solid carbon fiber through and through. It's, in my opinion, really well done. They're sanded beautifully. It's a weird mix of smooth yet still grippy. I mean, unless your hands are just really dry, you can grip these. It feels just like a nice, grippy, good carbon fiber. Really well done. Very happy with that, right? Again, they already come with that lock cutout, so if you're worried about that, this is not one to be worried about. They do have the carbon fiber pocket clips, which obviously you're not going to get on a real Spyderco. This one's actually done really well. The tension is perfect. I can slide it in and out of any kind of pants, including sweatpants, just fine. It is reversible into all 4 positions. I did actually accidentally put it, so I know it definitely works for lefties. Sometimes, they look like they can be moved, but it's not actually threaded on the inside steel liners. There are steel liners inside here. But this does work. So if you're a lefty, you can absolutely switch that pocket clip over there. No issues at all. I did not try, tip down carry. Who does that? The lanyard hole is still accessible, so my buddy John's going to be real happy about that. You can still get your lanyard through there. Yeehaw for that. So the clip is all good. No hot spots. It is reversible to all 4 positions. Tension is perfect. It's not really a deep carry, but none of the Shamans really are. You're gonna be sticking that much out of there, which is gonna let your lanyard work. So there you go, John. Your lanyard to be accessible for you. Hardware-wise, T8's on the on really everything. T8's on everything. The pivot and the body, but not the pocket clip. Pocket clip are T6 screws. So it is what it is. It's a non-captive pivot. You got to have one of those things for both sides, although I'll tell you, I don't think I've needed the finger bit. One side will come out unless you just really Loctited it in there. No issues with that. Does have steel liners. It's milled on one side, so let's see if I can get the lighting right. You can barely see that in here. I wonder if you can see it better from the back side here. Yeah, you can see there's just 3 little holes. They didn't like go to great extents for some reason to really cut a lot of holes in there to really lighten it up. But again, it's not overly heavy anyhow, so it is what it is. Pretty happy about all that. Overall, ergonomics is what this knife is all about. This is the hand melting definition, right? The really smooth, rounded edges all around this thing. That's what this knife is about. Total comfort right there. Very solid lockup, no play, no pivot lash. No detent. Oh, no, this one does have the detent lash. See, I'm just so used to saying it's not many knives that have detent lash. So let's talk about the detent lash because that was the issue on the first one. So you can barely see. I can just flex this a little bit up and down, right? Now, the other one was loose enough to where if I shook it, it would rattle. But it doesn't do it on this one. What I discovered is you have to tighten down the pivot screws. So, Jeff, I hope you stuck with me to this point in the video, buddy, because you got my other one. Tighten down the pivot screws to all the way to the point where it's just really too tight, where that blade will not just drop shut. It's just really slow and really stalls about that point, right? And you think, okay, I've got my pivot too tight. Leave it there and force it. Just flip it. You know, like you don't have to do it now because now it's drop shut. But when it's brand new, it needs to break in all those detent tracks. And that's what I did. By tightening it to really what you would consider to be too tight at the very beginning, it will break in to this drop shut point all day long. And the good news is it doesn't bounce. Y'all know I hate a knife that bounces out of the detent. This one doesn't. It sticks to the landing every time, right? Very happy about that. So what, you just over tighten it or tighten it up nice and tight to where it's not drop shut and just keep flipping it in and out and in and out and in and out. Once those detent tracks break in, you will now have a knife that is absolutely drop shut. Of course, that was me. I left my finger in there. That is truly drop shut. I'm trying to do it without flipping it. I have a tendency to shake my hand to let it drop. You don't need to do that. It just drops on its own without the shaky detent. So again, it is what it is. If that little bit of looseness bothers you, then you probably don't want this knife, but it doesn't bother me. Sure as heck doesn't bother me at this price for that kind of steel with carbon fiber scales, that kind of ergonomics and a nice heavy duty knife. This is still one hell of a value, y'all. I mean, it's hard not to say, you know, you just call it what it is. This is the typical Spyderco compression lock. You are not going to break that free. It's one of the strongest locks out there. This is certainly no exception to that. You've got this nice long, low center line drop point shaped blade there. No hump on the back. The jimping on the top and the bottom is absolutely perfect. A thick, beefy 150 thousandths blade for nice, heavy duty, hard use work. Again, I think this is probably a softer 58, 59 HRC on the M390, but I do think it's real M390. Forward choil. This is where there's a big difference. And y'all may have already noticed this and wondered why I haven't even said anything. Maybe you haven't yet. Look at the nub right here on the original. They cut the nub off. So here was the most annoying thing of the original Shaman is that nub, okay? When you close it, if you don't move your finger out of the way, that nub comes back up and hits you. You can see how it sticks up right here. If your finger is closing that lock bar, when that happens, it's going to bounce the blade. That blade literally bounces off of the tip of your finger. But it feels weird. It's a little disconcerting. When you first do it, you're like, oh crap, did I just get hit by the blade? And it's not, it's just that little nub. But that's the most annoying thing. When you close a real Shaman, you have to get your finger out of that hole just in the nick of time. So as long as you've got good timing on it and you get used to it, no big deal, right? Well, so they decided, let's fix that, right? Let's cut that darn nub right off. So they did that. They ground it right down. You can see it's got a little bit of a rounded radius. They just stuck that thing on a grind wheel of some sort or dremeled the hell out of it. Here's the problem though. They left the corners a little sharp on this thing. So this is the other issue that I would have with this knife is that these little corners where they ground it could be a little, you're not going to feel it here too much unless you got big meaty fingers. Then your finger may slide up into that spot right there and that could rub it raw after a while. It's not like going to cut you sharp, although I guess if you push hard enough across it, could cut you. It's just, relatively sharp. But here's where you'll notice if you're doing draw cuts like that, now your finger's definitely rubbing right up on the corner of that nub right there. So you're going to need another little diamond tipped file bit of some sort, whether that's a Dremel tool or just, little needle files, diamond bit needle files. You can get those for like 10 bucks on Temu. I bought some and they actually worked out great. Still use them all the time. You're going to need to file down the corners right there. But that being said, I like that. I like not having that nub come up and hit me in the finger every time I close the darn knife. So it's a love it, hate it kind of thing. I think it's absolutely worth the 2 minutes it's going to take for me to sand off the corners of that thing. But, why they didn't think of that or do that when they made it, I don't know. Otherwise, you'll find this is an exact, more or less replica. Square hole. Here's the other thing that I had discovered. It felt different to me. They're cutting the holes in these blades different sizes. So first and foremost, the square hole doesn't affect the flipping in any way. If anything, it actually feels a little more comfortable and natural. First and foremost, this is a bigger hole. Like I can get that much of my whole fingernail through that hole, right? I cannot do that on this one. So that's as far as I can get my finger in. So I realized, I thought, well, this hole feels bigger. They're not even using the same size patterns when they're cutting the hole. So I went back and pulled my OK-229. It's a different size hole as well. All three are great, no issues. And I guess this one could get you if you got your finger too deep in there. That has never happened to me, y'all. It's just a non-issue, period. I have never even accidentally stuck my finger too far in that hole, right? All right, y'all make your own jokes there. I'm just gonna keep on moving through that. Anyhow, very smooth action. These are ceramic bearings. Here's the other thing. You don't hear anything rattling, right? I'm gonna put this up to the microphone. Nothing rattling. I'm swinging that thing freely. Listen to this. That's cheap steel bearings right there. It works. This is a cheap steel knife, obviously. That's the reason why. So they put decent bearings on there. It's quiet, it's smooth, it's drop shut. These are just the standard bearings that came in it. So nice, smooth action. The OK branding, why do they need to put it in big letters? I guess they're super proud of that. I don't know that I would be. Just gives you the model number here. Don't know why you really need to do that. Kind of figured that out. Each of them are numbered. So far, at least I've had two different knives, and they have two different numbers. The other thing is the maker's mark. They've changed their maker's mark up a little bit here. Let's go the old zoom in method. So you can see this is the maker's mark on both the 81 and the 223. This is the maker's mark on the Shaman, the 229. I don't know why. Maybe they are different makers. It's not like they didn't just copy somebody else's design. So really, like, you're proud to put your own unique name on that thing. I don't know that I would be if I was y'all, but to each their own, so be it. Just thought that would be worth pointing out there. All right, blade centering. Well, look at that. It's almost back on again. It was a little slightly off. It's actually, if you look, just a hair off to the right side. But as much work as I've done cranking down that pivot screw, which I did have to Loctite also, by the way, I'm not surprised this thing is not perfectly centered anymore. I want to say it was perfectly centered when it came, but it was a little loose on that detent. So I needed to crank it down. I don't care if it's centered. I certainly don't care if it's that much off. I don't know if y'all do either, but there you go. It is what it is. No sharpening choil on this knife. That's true to form. Although they had a little one on the OK-81. I thought that was weird. Look, they cut this little divot right in here at the tip of that OK-81. Made that so much easier for me to sharpen when I sharpened this up. I don't know why they didn't do that. Whoever this maker is, he probably should have taken notes from the other maker and cut me a little bit of sharpening choil in there. Wish you would have done that, but they didn't, so there you go. From the factory, did it come sharp? Yeah, it came sharp. It's not great. So here's my other experience. When I sharpened the OK-81 and 223, what I discovered is that the totally variable angle. So at one part of the blade, it was a 24. That was the lowest angle they had, and then by the time I got to the tip, they were at a 34 degree. I had to keep adjusting my angle finder until I got to 34 degrees, and it finally took all the black ink off my marker. You know how you measure the angle. So clearly what they're doing is by hand, and as they're moving it across the sharpening wheel, instead of keeping it straight, they're literally tilting the knife up. So instead of just coming straight across, they're going across and tilting it up, which means now it's getting flatter on this end. So strange how they do that. I don't know if they do it on purpose or just because they don't care and they're banging these things out fast. However, it is sharp and it will obviously cut paper, no issues. I'm going to say that's probably a 9. It's not the cleanest cut in the whole wide world, you know, compared to a lot of knives that I have. It's just a 9. You know, most people would be thrilled with a 9 for the most part if you're going to do heavy work with it. I don't care. I haven't even sharpened it yet. I probably will sharpen it up just because I've had such a good experience with sharpened versions of these M390s, really holding up well. But anyhow, it is what it is. We're pretty happy with that. Got a 9 on the redneck rating scale. Ergonomically, this is excellent. It's a Shaman. Everybody loves them for the right reasons, right? The clip is beautiful, much better than the real Shaman clip because that thing is a hot fire mess right there. That spoon clip, I don't like them at all. Maybe you do, and if you do, great, yeehaw for that. I don't, and so I'm really happy to have this one. Love the forward choil. Not happy about that little sharp edge. I'm going to knock that down when I'm done with this video. Otherwise, smooth but grippy, you know, just everything you want in a good heavy-duty knife. Negative-wise, I've already covered everything. The biggest issue is that detent lash, which I've mostly fixed. Sharp edges on that, you know, ground down nub. M390 is a little bit soft, but holy crap, for the money you're paying for this thing, show me where you're going to get another carbon fiber handled knife that's this comfortable and good in a real M390 that's going to be really well heat treated. There's like a million really expensive knives out there that are 58 to 59 HRC on their M390, right? So overall, excellent value for the money. And again, you know, you want to save a little bit of money, I might try that S35VN. I think it's 64 bucks. That's probably a good knife too, although probably not going to have the same edge retention, but who knows, because it may be heat treated differently. You might get even better edge retention out of it. I don't know. Do I want to recommend this thing? You know, I hate recommending these things, but you know, clearly I think this is really good value for the money. Yeah, you can find replicas all over the place for 25 bucks, but you know, it is what it is, and you have no idea what that steel is. You'd be lucky if it's an 8CR13, which really wouldn't be all that bad, but you heard how those bearings sound, right? That's what you get. Although I could still live with that for all kinds of uses that I would have on my budget, right? But this is just a much better value, right? You're gonna, if you save up a little bit more, 60, 70 bucks, you can get really good knife here. Nice carbon fiber, really well done otherwise, other than the few things I said here. So there you go. I'm very happy to own this knife. Hopefully Jeff is enjoying his that he won in the contest as well. This is absolutely now my go-to heavy-duty work knife. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. As always, I appreciate y'all so much. Let me know down in the comments if any of y'all gotten one of these things yet. I got to imagine other people have too. What has been your experience? Have you noticed any other issues? Do you have any other issues with these things? Apart from the fact that, you know, this is obviously a clear replica of a well-known brand. In terms of actual use, fit, finish, and function, what has your experience been? Y'all let me know down in the comments. I always look forward to hearing from you. If you're not already, hit that subscribe and notification bell. Join our little band of renegades. Thanks so much, y'all. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.